welcome back to Real Estate Tips and Tricks. My name is Aaron Adams. In the studio today we have my good friend and entrepreneur Doug Dale,
Hey, Aaron.
as well as insurance broker and entrepreneur Derek Lacey.
Yeah.
So before the break we were talking about the relative strengths of real estate, especially as it compares to stocks and mutual funds, and it was based on a blog that was posted on September 9th by McKellar Newsom at Bigger Pockets blog, and which is a resource that I like. And we were talking about how rental rates tend to not be tied to world trends. You know, if you have, when you look at a company like JP Morgan Chase, who has been considering trucking cash into Greece, should they go back to the drachma and need to pay their employees over there, and what that could potentially do to stock prices all over the world, that's going to have very little effect on local rental rates. And I have a friend named Jim who talks about, if you look historically, monthly rent, median rent, has always had a correlation to the price of a loaf of bread. And he likes to point out that in any given market, median rent will correlate to about the price of 300 loaves of bread. So, how much is a loaf of bread anyway, Doug?
I don't know. I was just thinking about that.
Dana?
Dana, any idea?
Depends.
Dana says it depends. So,
yeah.
We might need to Google that. But, let's assume it's $2 or $3. And what, times 300, so you're looking at $800 or $900. That's easily the median rent here in Indiana, or in any number of markets across the country. And if you think about that, some people talk about Armageddon. Some people talk about the monetary unit being completely destroyed. And when I lived in South America when I was younger, I was in Venezuela, and I remember getting to Venezuela in November 2002, and their monetary unit, did you find it, Doug?
I'm looking it up right now.
Okay. Their monetary unit is the Bolivar. When I got to Venezuela, the Bolivar in 1992 was trading at 46 Bolivars to the dollar. In the early 80s, it was as low as 4 Bolivar to the dollar. And by the time I left in 94, when Hugo Chavez attempted his coup on the government, who he's been the president for years.
Yep. And
it's been interesting because the Bolivar runs around 600 to 1,500 Bolivars to the dollar. And it was so interesting to me because I'd never experienced rampant inflation, but I remember one day, we just called it the B, but the Bolivar jumped from 50 to 75 over a weekend.
Oh, wow.
And I had dollars, so I remember going to the bank, cashing those dollars in so that I could go buy CDs really cheap, because the monetary unit jumped and the store owners didn't have time to change their prices, and so I changed my dollars in for the higher price and then went in and bought services. And it was
your currency speculating.
Yeah, I was a corporator, and yeah, I was completely speculating on currency, and because I would keep dollars, at any given time, and I remember waiting for it to devaluate further so I could go cash it in and buy stuff. And it highlighted to me really in some countries, and certainly around, how unstable the currency can be. And one of the biggest strengths about real estate is that you're not tied to those trends and those jumps and commodity changes. That when you own real estate, no matter what happens with the money, you're always going to be able to collect the equivalent, and maybe the actual equivalent of 300 loaves of bread for your rent. So, getting into the fourth reason why real estate trumps investing in stocks and mutual funds, it's titled Pass the Coca-Cola. And it pointed out that if you own stock in Coca-Cola, how can you make your stock price go up? You can drink it every day. You can be a consumer of the product. I don't own Facebook. We mentioned it earlier. But I do use it every day, and I haven't noticed that it's ever increased the stock price of Facebook. So I don't even know that that's a valid strategy. But then think about real estate, and how can you directly impact the value of your real estate properties, Doug?
Sure, you can. As you were touching on with your kind of the property that you picked up on Fletcher there, you can, if you wanted to go retail with the property as an example, you could go in there and put granite countertops, and you could put hardwood floors in. You can do all these nice additions to the home to increase the value, all within reason, within the approximate appraised value, right? You could do certain odds and ends and marketing to get an increased rent rate, all within reason. You can't do any of that with a stock. Basically, the stock is going to trade at what the market thinks the stock is going to trade at, and you have, frankly, neither do the experts have any idea what that price is truly going to be. Because if the experts knew what stocks and bonds are going to be trading at, they'd all be retired and wouldn't be saying anything about it on television.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And Derek, what do you think? How can insurance add value to products?
Add value to the products as far as the rentals, or
just whatever?
Oh, well, insurance is the reason that we have products. I mean, if you were out there risking your company, your family's fortune, just everything unlimited, and there was no backup, no guarantee behind that, nobody would go into business. No bridge would be built. No building would be put up.
Yeah, no, it's a
great point.
That's exactly what I was driving at, because I don't think people realize how intrinsically married to any business insurance is.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there are a few that try to skate by, but usually they end up getting caught, not by the state, not by somebody going out looking for insurance. They get caught by the lawyers. A lawsuit happens, and then next thing they know, they don't have any money and they're not in business anymore.
Yeah, no, we have a couple that clean our house and clean our business, and they're bonded, and I don't worry about it because they're bonded, and they have an insurance policy that if they steal and we can prove that, then we get paid.
Right.
It's like you were saying, nothing would get built. And I even think further as it relates to investment properties, because Doug and I sell 20, 30, 40 properties a month to investors, and almost every property that I sell has a policy that you and your team have put in place. And those policies that you've crafted because of your third generation experience in insurance add value to our product, because we can tell investors, look, we've done 2,000 deals, and we're selling you a property with an insurance policy from a family who's done 20,000 deals and 20,000 policies over the years, if not many more.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been put together by people who've really thought about all the contingencies, and that adds value.
Well, and on top of that, just what you're talking about, who would really want to buy a property from you if they thought, I'm going to give Aaron $60,000 and it might just go up in flames tomorrow? It really helps facilitate that transaction, the fact that they do have security in the purchase.
Yeah, I mean, think about titles and title insurance. I mean,
a lien from however many years ago comes back to bite you on title insurance. I mean, that's very important as well.
It would be virtually impossible to sell properties in this country, because every single person, if I wanted to buy a property from Doug, I would have to go down and research the title for the previous, since its existence, and then that would assume that I would actually know what that means to research title. I mean, who would do that? It would just, it would cripple business, just like Derek mentioned.
Sure, and it was funny. There was an investor here in town. He was buying a lot of homes. And he called me up one time. He thought he had found like a stroke of genius. He was like, "Hey, I'm buying some homes from HUD. I'm buying a HUD home." He goes, "And they're going to give me a warranty deed, so I don't think I should bother getting insurance, like title insurance." And I'm like, "Wait, why?" And he's like, "Well, I'm getting it from the government, and they're giving me a warranty deed. I'll just sue them if I have to, if I don't have any title defects." And I'm like, "Oh, that's just never going to work out for you. That's just never going to play out the way you'd want it to." So,
well, and I bought one of my biggest rookie mistakes was back in California in 2001. I bought what I thought was a duplex. I actually thought it was two houses on a lot. There was a house in the front of the lot, and I looked it up, and it had been built in the 1930s. And then there was a house in the back of the lot that had been built in the 1920s. And I was buying it from an investor who sold it to me on contract. And that means that I just gave him 10% down, and then I had 2 years to pay him the rest. So my intention was to go in and spend $20,000 on the property. I bought it from him for $80,000, gave him $8,000 down. My goal was to be into it $100,000, and because I was getting rent from the front house and rent from the back house, my intention was to sell it for about $150,000. This was California, in one of the quickest appreciating markets that we've seen in the last 25 years. So it was a sound strategy. Now, I had bought properties from that investor previously, and so thought, just like your friend, well, I don't need title insurance, I don't need escrow, I just need the paperwork where he sells the property from me. So okay, I should be fine with that. Now, I noticed that when I pulled the tax record on the property, that it was zoned only as a single-family residence, not as a two-family or as a duplex. I walked over to the city offices that were literally a block and a half away and had been there since the 1920s, and walked in and I said, hey, you guys have this listed as a single-family residence, and I need it to be changed as a two-family residence. It's got 2 houses, 2 separate gas meters, 2 electric meters, 2 separate water meters. Clearly all the utilities know it's a duplex. You're the only ones who don't. And they kind of laughed and said, yeah, there you go, that's city government for you. Let us send the fire inspector over to, the fire marshal over to take a look at it, making sure everything's kosher. So I met him over there about a week later, and he starts walking around the front house, and then he walks around the back house, and he starts shaking his head because the back house was set back about 6 inches from the property line, and the house on the adjacent lot was only 3 feet from it. And he turned to me and he said, Aaron, I can't grandfather this in because it's a fire code violation. You can't grandfather a fire code violation. You have 2 structures that are 3 feet apart.
Oh, man.
You have to tear it down. And I said, wait a minute, this little house has been here since 1924, and it's been a block and a half from your offices. How is that possible? And how did this happen? And he said, well, you were the first person to ask.
You told on yourself.
Yeah. And he said, didn't you get title insurance? And I thought, no, I didn't need it, and I didn't want to pay for it. And he said, well, there's a little tuition for you, but you'll always get title insurance. And I had to tear that property down. It cost me, I had 10 guys with sledgehammers and a dumpster, and they tore it down. And I had to sit, unfortunately, because of that real estate market, I ended up having to hold that single-family home another 2 years to get the value up enough so where I could sell it for a profit.
Yeah. So tough, Aaron. That was so tough on you.
So lucky, right? Because I would have been bankrupt otherwise. And let's do this. We have 2 more of the 6 reasons why real estate trumps investing. Let's take a quick break. When we get back, we'll talk about numbers 5 and 6 and let Derek weigh in with his respective expertise. And so don't go anywhere. My name is Aaron Adams. You're listening to Real Estate Tips and Tricks, and this is News Talk 1430 WXNT.